Hello, everyone. I hope you all are doing well today. And today, before we start today's episode of the Weekend Club series, here is an announcement to make. My two e learning modules, which is on fundamentals of business communication and fundamentals of project management, is out there on Udemy. The link is mentioned in the description box below. So do check it out. If you wish to enroll, I'll see you on that side on Udemy. It is a combination of self-paced e-learning lectures as well as some tests and quizzes and lots of downloadable materials as well. So do check it out. And before we start today's conversation, please do not forget to subscribe to the channel. Well, have you ever wondered why email communication is still relevant and important in professional life, despite of us having chat engines like Microsoft Teams, Skype, HiChat, WhatsApp, etc.? Have you ever received an email that made you feel cringe? Or do you struggle to declutter your inbox, your email, and you don't know how to manage your emails and you often miss out on acknowledging your emails? Then this episode will be helpful for you, especially because we are going to have conversation around email communication and email management in this episode. So without much of saying, let's get started. Hi Rahul, hi Gaurav, welcome back to yet another episode of the series. Today our conversation is going to be around email communication because we live in a technological world today. It's a small world. On daily basis, we communicate with people sitting in another corner of the world every single day in our professional life. So my very first question to both of you is, since email communication is part of our daily life, why do you think people still don't take it seriously? Why do you think, even though we do it daily, but still we feel that we need to learn more and more when it comes to email communication? We need to get better at it. What's your thought on it, Gaurav?
Yeah, I think emails are, I don't know why, maybe it's this like the inhuman part of it, that it's virtual, you don't see the person and so on, which makes it kind of hard, because I personally also struggle with writing emails, and I'm always confused if I'm wording it right, or is it too aggressive or so. So this is, I think, definitely a thing, and it takes me forever to like finish drafting an email. So yeah, I think it's the non-human part of it where you have to write it, and also like you don't know how the other person perceives it, right? You're not there to get the reaction instantly and kind of modulate your response, which makes it even tougher, because you can only like be in control of what you write or say on the email, but not of what the other person perceives it as.
Yeah, I think like it's quite sad that emails is kind of drifting away. I mean, it's a debatable argument, but I think emails are becoming like less important, or like a little bit we are not having the same attitude towards email, because first of all, it's not so stimulating as texting someone, because then we get like read and delivered, send and typing and those things. You never know like if your email has ever been read or not. But that being said, I think also there is an element of not all the inboxes by everyone are so organized, which makes it even more complicated to handle emails. But still, I believe it is like an integral part of communicating formally in offices, and also in terms of like bureaucratic stuff. So yeah, it's interesting to talk and hear your and Gaurav's feedback about how the email is, the concept of email is.
Right. I think both of you mentioned very interesting points. One is Gaurav mentioned about that we don't see a person in front of us with whom we are communicating. So the non-verbal cues that we usually get while communicating with people who are in our immediate surrounding, that is a major missing factor while communicating in emails. So my next question is, how should we be mindful about our tone and language while writing emails?
I think this is kind of very complicated to answer in a like in like a one shot way, because it really depends on the cultural background, the language that you're coming from, and all of these things, right? Also the working environment itself. Like talking about again my own experience, like because I'm in an academic setup, our way of communication, even in emails, is slightly semi formal or informal. So we never really internally, at least in our group, even with the professor, postdocs, or technicians, or students, or so, we never internally communicate starting with like dear XYZ. Internally, it's always like, hey, Namrata, and then like getting to the point. It is just like a WhatsApp message, but without the emojis, right? And it's still like not funny or not offensive or so, but just very to the point. But yet, like not these formal things like dear sir, madam, or so, which we like have in India, right? Which is a lot there.
Yeah, I think like email can be challenging, as you said, because yeah, we do not see each other's face. But I think like I just realized when we were having this discussion, I use the technique. I don't know how good it is, but let's say if you want to address like a compliment to someone, then give it in first person. So like, please mention the name of the person you are want to, or like direct towards them. Like you can write you or Namrata or Gaurav. When you want to address some sensitive issues, then you can talk in third person more, or passive, not active, but you can use passive sentence formations and use third person as much as possible, we or the situation. That kind of helps in making a distance from that critical sensitive things, so people do not take it personally, perceive it. But that being said, I think everyone or most of us struggle with having this, that because they have never heard us or because they have never seen us, so they cannot imagine ourselves speaking those things. So it's of course all the time difficult.
Yeah, absolutely. So one thing I do when I am communicating through emails in cross-culture environment, in different cultures, different countries. So I try to mimic in terms of the culture that they follow. So for example, in United Kingdom, they do not say thank you or we'll see you soon. They say cheers, cheers mate. So I try to write, if I'm communicating with someone in London, then I will not write thank you. I'll write cheers mate, we'll see you soon. Something like that. Something that they already follow in their culture, even in emails. If I'm writing to someone in France, instead of writing hello XYZ person, I will say salut or bonjour. Something that they already use a keyword in their culture already to connect with them. So I try to do that. One of the thing, very basic thing in initial conversation. Rahul mentioned a very interesting point, that when to use directly by name and when not to use. So for all the people watching this who are not aware of this, sometimes I see people write dear Mr. Gaurav, greetings of the day. So if you are using salutations like Mr., Miss or Mrs., the one common thing that you need to follow is, and it's a rule, it's not something introduced by me or established by me, but if you want to use salutations like Mr., Miss or Mrs., you need to write the surname with it, not the first name. The last name is used with all those salutations. So I cannot write dear Mr. Rahul. If I want to write Mr., then I will write dear Mr. Vyas or dear Mr. Dave. So my another question to you, that where should one use communication through portals like Microsoft Teams or Skype or those chat engines, and when should one use emails for communication and not those chat engines?
I think it's very much so. For example, the structure that we follow is that we have a separate, like just like Microsoft Teams, but from the university itself, and like called HiChat. It's basically WhatsApp, but only for university stuff, right? And so what we have done is we have created rooms based on different topics or different labs or different offices and this and that. And then we have everybody who's involved in that XYZ thing also like in the group. And so the communication is much more direct and it's to the point. There's no like emails create a lot of like unnecessary wastage of words as well, right? Like dear XYZ, regards this, that, hope you had a good day, bad day, all of these things. They're nice. Of course, that's a way you communicate to a person, right? You don't just slap the point on them, but you kind of like go through it softly, but it is also a lot of clutter. And like these kind of modes eliminate that. But then of course, as soon as you have external collaborators or so where you need to communicate with, let's say, like companies that you're buying from, or you have external collaborators who are outside of university or outside of your group even, then you need to switch to email because it's a more universal form of professional communication.
Yeah, I think like I have observed at my workplace, very depends upon case to case. I think some people like just if we reach out over Teams chat, and some prefer like if we email. I think both have its pros and cons. For example, like if it's like a very simple ad hoc thing, maybe it's easier to just reach out over Teams to just ask a trivial question, and then since the messages are organized as per the sender of the message, it's way easier to respond. Where if people do not have the most cleanest inbox, then it's a clutter, and yeah, it's a lot quicker to just reply over the chat. On the other hand, I also think like when you start involving a lot of stakeholders, if you want to keep people in loop, or if you want to even collaborate with a lot of people, I mean, it's not just about like documentation of some important information, but just for example collaborating that, okay, if I have to send you some information, maybe Gaurav is not exactly involved in it, but let's say we three are planning the trip, you booked an Airbnb, and I can ask you, hi, can you share me the detail of Airbnb, and I can keep Gaurav in copy. So then he assumes that it's you who need to answer because you are in 2 and Gaurav is in CC, makes it a little bit easier. But on the other hand, if Gaurav has the access to that information quicker, then he can just jump in the conversation and reply. So that has some advantage when you have like lots of stakeholders. But that being said, I think it really depends upon case to case.
Right. So Rahul mentioned you mentioned a very interesting point related to managing your inbox. You mentioned that if people have not been managing their inbox properly and in a very clean manner, then they need to follow some other things. So my next question to you is that do both of you have any specific ways on how you manage your inboxes on your respective emails?
I think I can go first.
Sure.
Because that's short. No. My inbox is extremely cluttered and kind of like chaotic. And yeah, I think there's always, depending on the person who's sending it and so on, you want to instantly reply. Or like the only 2 or 3 levels of emails I have in my inbox is unread, starred, or read. Like there's no other level, which means that sometimes if, let's say you send me something about, oh, this is a cool conference or a cool event that I could go to, and I'm like, okay, now I read it, so I'll just put a star on it, and now it stays there highlighted forever. But probably because the next day I already get 10 new emails, that one gets buried and I will never look at it again. So this happens. But I think if you have like immediate replies or so, then you just like, you have a sword hanging on yourself, so you have to reply. So those don't get missed out. But like in general organization, like there's none. So yeah, Rahul.
Yeah, I think I love this topic because I love organizing like data. And yeah, I can start like to say, I had not so organized inbox. Lately I have been doing better. I think there is a lot more I can do. But for example, I can say just have a strict policy that you won't have close to zero inbox policy. That's what. you can have some emails if you want. Like I at the moment I have 0 on my Gmail, and I have around 10 emails for my work, which are active work points. I can say, for example, like we mentioned, there are a lot of emails coming to CC, and if, let's say, if you do not have to respond, you do not have information, you are just in loop, just press backspace and it will go archive. Like, you do not need to have all the emails on your inbox. Like, you can get like hundreds of email in a day. If you think, yeah, someone else is taking care of it, just archive. Because as we sit today, like if you take Outlook, Apple email, the email app, or Thunderbolt, all the email providers have wonderful filter function. Like, you can basically find any email if you just drop it in one folder, given you have good context of it. You can also use folders. For example, like if there is, like you said, an important email which you would like to go back and review, and where you think you can take actions, then I have like a folder called to review, which usually about has, let's say, at the moment I think it would have around 20 emails, uh, which you can review. Then I have one more folder which is review later. For example, if there is something which I would like to review but it's not my topmost priority, then I just put it in top review. If I have time during the work week, then I will go back and see, okay, maybe I can do this. And actually, the key thing is you can also make clutter of your to review box. So you try to archive that. If you have not taken action in, like, let's say 3 months, you are not gonna take that action. Please archive it. So basically, keep on archiving it. Like, if you have thousands of email on your inbox. If you have never read them, you are not gonna read them again. Don't delete it, but archive it. So yeah.
So Rahul, I loved how enthusiastically you briefed about how you manage your inbox and your email management system, and I'm sure this is going to be helpful for a lot of people watching this. Times our inbox is so cluttered that we miss out on even replying to a lot of emails, even viewing a lot of emails. So what you discussed about creating different folders to review, to archive, all of it is very important. Because despite we use chatbots and these tools like Microsoft Teams and Skype and WhatsApp, but still emails are very, very important. Even today, lots of negotiations and conflict resolution happens on emails at times for many professionals. So my next question with that to both of you is, sometimes we are very agitated with the person that we are communicating with professionally. We are very angry. We are very annoyed by the mistake that someone has made, be it our vendor or client or any stakeholder, and we need to communicate to them through email. So those kind of tricky emails where we are agitated or we need to communicate the mistake that they've made in a project that we are working, or maybe we are very angry with them. How do we address it? How do we write it on emails?
I think also, as I said during the beginning, I just use this thumb rule that trying to create a distance by writing it in third person and also writing it in passive form rather than active form, which helps to just create some distance between the issue, me and you, basically. So we are not targeting someone that, oh, it's you, but then it's the problem. So trying to make it in third person, passive, yeah. That's it, I think so.
For me, I think it's like sometimes if these kind of situations arise, I think I try to like completely isolate the emotion from the email that I'm writing, so I try to keep it normal. But then I think what also could work is that like you kind of like present a solution or a responsibility to the person responsible to fix that, not in a form of a command but rather like a question. For example, I don't know, let's say a stupid thing like I spilled the coffee right now on the table, right? And then instead of you telling me to like, oh Gaurav, I think it's your fault that you spilled the coffee, if you go like, Agaro, do you think you can just grab a tissue from the kitchen and clean it? Would it work? Gets the thing done, and now you don't come out as a villain either, right? Like if you kind of put it in this way. But I also feel like, for example, if sometimes like what Rahul said, like if you detach, like if you put it in passive voice, does it not come out as passive aggressive? Or
I think
I'm
you.
not sure about it because, as I said, my email writing is kind of weak, and my strategy to not make the other person feel offended a lot of times is just to add a smiley and then still write whatever I want.
Yeah, even I think it's an excellent example that you shared. Another thing that people can also follow is sometimes during conflicts, especially over emails, our ways of writing is you missed out on this, you did this, you didn't proofread properly. Rather than we can address it, I noticed there was this. Can I help you with anything? Can I help you to proofread one more time? So make it for yourself, make it on you, not projecting on them. So try to have a collaborative approach if you're working in a team rather than just projecting things and saying, okay, you made this mistake. You can say, you might have missed on this, I think, attachment. Can you just check it once and reshare it if it's fine with you? I'm waiting. And then you can write I'm waiting, but in a humble way, so that they know it is important and we are waiting, but we can tell it in a very polite way. So, because we mention a lot of things about communicating, be it tone, being aggressive, being clear, or being very direct, or passive aggressive, assertive, a lot of things that we used keywords while communicating. So, I'll show you some templates wherein, people can learn how to maybe negotiate on emails, or maybe something that you really shouldn't do and really need to proofread before sending emails. I came across this email on LinkedIn while I was just scrolling randomly, and there was this email. Now, this is written by a manager or a boss to their employee approving their sick leave. And the last line that you see is, would you like a slightly more casual or more formal version? So, so for the people, so for the people who love to use AI tools like ChatGPT, Copy AI, Gemini, any AI artificial intelligence tools that you are using at the present, and I'm sure most of the population across globe use these tools, AI tools, which is great. Everyone needs to use it for the ease of our work, but then be mindful to proofread before sending your emails. Proofreading is a major part of your email management, email communication. Now, one main another email that I want to show both of you, and I want you to analyze the tone, the language used in this email. So this email, again, I found it from LinkedIn, and this was written by Steve Jobs in 2005, as you can see on the email, and it was sent to Bruce Shizen, if I'm pronouncing it correctly, who was the chief executive officer of Adobe at that point of time. I think he was CEO of Adobe from 2000 to 2008, if I'm not wrong. So Steve Jobs wrote this email to Bruce that Bruce, Adobe is recruiting from Apple. They have hired one person already and are calling lots more. I have a standing policy with our recruiters that we do not recruit from Adobe. It seems you have a different policy. One of us must change our policy. Please let me know who. Steve. So, what's your take on this email, both of you?
Yeah, I think it's very short, concise, and clear, I would say. Yeah, I think depending upon the size of Apple then and size of Adobe, then one can argue it's maybe more uh, direct or more threatening. But considering it was 2005 and Adobe was also quite big, so one might pursue this as more like a collaborative or yeah, just asking what should be our, bringing clarity to the table, and just showing an indication that if this continues, we will also not. Yeah.
Yeah, I think the first thing is like the interesting thing in the email is the subject, that it's like only one word, which is like our professor, she's also always doing like one word subjects, not very elaborative or anything. And then like you read the email and you're like, and this is the same way, but she's not as rude as Steve. She's much nicer. But yeah, I would say I agree with Rahul's thing. Like I also don't know the state of Apple and Adobe like 20 years ago or something, but depending on how the power dynamics and the size and the scaling of the company were, it can be taken as like very aggressive, or just a like peer-to-peer thing if they're like both on the same level or so, and then you can just do this, right? But yeah, also I'm very curious to see if at the end of his email there was like a sent from my iPhone note.
I think
Nice, I
iPhones were
mean,
not the iPhone released in 2007, so
oh, okay.
Okay. See, I don't know. Well,
Yeah, even I did. So, no, but I think, yeah, I mean, I don't find this very threatening, but more of a assertive or a passive aggressive tone, I would say. One thing I notice is he's very direct. I mean, no dear, no hi, just direct. Bruce, listen. So, so maybe because sometimes it happens that even in business relations, even with our competitors, we have a very direct relation. We do directly call them and just say, Rahul, listen. So we do not know their internal personal dynamics with each other. So hard to comment on that, but I believe that the mail is very direct, like Bruce, and then he started with Adobe is recruiting from Apple, directly with facts, very objective. He also mentioned about policy, that I have a standing policy with our recruiters that we. So what I was saying couple of minutes back, that whenever I write emails, I'm more about you did this, you did that. No, I try to write about, okay, I believe this, I felt this, I think you missed out on this. So I think it's a very good strategy, that it's not directly projecting, but still trying to communicate that there is an issue because I am suffering this. So I believe that he has mentioned the same thing. Instead of you did this, you are doing this wrong, he said, I have a standing policy with our recruiters that we don't recruit from Adobe. So it seems you have a different policy. Then he wrote, not directly you, but first he mentioned about himself. And then he said, okay, but you, I think it seems you have a different policy. So one of must change our policy, which is a very kind of a statement, where a negotiation kind of a statement, that you tell me what to do now. In a way, it's collaborative, that he's giving options and not directly saying that I'll start recruiting now. But he's giving the option that, okay, let me know who. So either it's I who is going to start recruiting from Adobe, or it's you who will stop recruiting from Apple. So it's kind of there's a method called anchoring in negotiation. It's one of the technique in negotiation called anchoring. We'll discuss in some another video when we are discussing more on negotiation. But I believe he has used this technique of anchoring in this email when he said, one must change our policy, please let me know who. So I think this email is gives a lot of learning for people, especially who wants to be in a managerial and a leadership position after some years, who are still beginners. It's a great way of negotiating in emails, very clear, concise, short, crisp, yet very direct and assertive. So sometimes people have this misconceptions that for some kinds of issues and negotiations and conflict resolution, it's better to meet one-on-one. So people in this era of sustainability, global warming, we are making our efforts for zero emissions. The first thing that people do in businesses is take the flight and go to the client or the person that there is a conflict with or a negotiation and then try to negotiate. But this email gives a great learning for people that negotiations and conflict resolution can happen over emails with just one clear, direct and concise email. If you have the ability, the power, and the right mindset and clarity in your head what you want to communicate, you can do it rightly through emails. So, to conclude this, I believe that emails are still not dying, it's still there, and it's just we need to improve our communication skills precisely on emails. Um, and I hope we get better. Even I am not that perfect all the time, even though I train people, but there are times when I feel, oh, I could have written this in a better way. I hate chat GPT language at times because there are very specific keywords like tailored to, effective and efficiently, which is like I read some of the emails from some of the people that I'm communicating with it, and I can see that this is rewritten by chat gpt. So it's great to gain help from AI tools, but at the end you should have your own first authenticity, that what you want to communicate, and then take help from AI tools. It's best way to go about it. So, yeah, that's it for today's video. I think it was a great conversation. Some great tips that were shared by both of you, Rahul and Gauram. I'm sure it will be very helpful for larger audience who are going to watch this. And I hope everyone applies that in terms of email management. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Well, thank you.
So that's it for today's episode. I hope you found some things that were helpful for you, or maybe you felt that, okay, this is something I need to give it a thought, or maybe I can implement it in my email communication or my email management. I hope it was insightful for you, and stay tuned for many more episodes coming on the Weekend Club series and with much more new topics for you. So stay tuned, and I'll see you next week.